Okay, this is part 3 of how to make a canvas board picture frame. And I'm back and I have marked all of my pieces. They're all marked with the center mark. See the center mark right there? It's marked there, there, and there. So I can see it on all the sides. I want to be able to see my center mark so that when I glue it together, I'll be able to make sure that I can see that it's centered on every single side. Every piece has been centered. Okay? Every single piece. This is the guide. There's the center mark right there. On all the sides, that's the bottom piece, and it's labeled bottom, right, left. It's going to go here. I made the 3 marks down here. This is the top with the center mark right there. This is labeled top, right, and left. This is my right board. This is my left board, and you know the center board has the center mark. Okay. Now I have a excuse me. I have a hot glue gun heating up over here, and I'm going to take all these pieces off, the 2 guides, the 2 top pieces, and just so you know how I got the size that I chose was by, and that's the length of this board. How big your picture frame is going to be depends on your canvas board size. Now, how I determined the size was I wanted it to look like this. Let me adjust this picture. When I put my picture in here, this is what I want to see. I want to see a little bit of wood on each side right here. So you have to make sure that there's an exact distance from here to here before you determine how wide your board's going to be. If you have, this one's it's 9 this way and 12 this way. So the length distance of this, I made, let's see, I don't have my measuring tape. Whatever that distance is, whatever you want to see. You know, it depends on what you want to see. This is the look that I wanted, and so that's how I got it. Now, to determine the distance from the bottom to the top, also depends on the width of your board. You just have to make sure there's enough room to slide this in and out. Don't make it too tight. When you glue these guides on, make sure that you don't put them, the top one and the bottom one, so close together that you can't slide this out, because when you put a fresh painting in there and the paint's still fresh, it's dry to touch, but it is still moist, you don't want it sticking to this, because when you slide this out, it's gonna tear the paint off of it. So you don't want that to happen. So anyway, that's how you determine the size of your guides. The size of your guides is going to be the same length as the width of the back of the picture frame. Okay. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how I made this on this chopping block and centered that frame so that it's totally square. And how I did that was, I need my pencil. Let me find my pencil. Okay, I had to get another pencil. I couldn't find mine. Alright. You want to make sure you have a sharp tip. The sharper the tip, the finer the line, the more exact your measurements are going to be. Okay, here's the chopping block. Okay. Okay. I want to make sure that you can see this and that the camera is centered. Okay, there we have it. This is the left side. I got my centerboard mark here, and I've got my right here. The most important part is the anchoring side. Now I'm left-handed, so of course I'm going to start on the left-hand side. You're right-handed, you're probably going to anchor it from this side. It doesn't matter. It's more comfortable for me to do it on this side. I'm going to take my left board, and I'm going to make sure that it's flush right here to my chopping block. Now my chopping block, I know, has a precision cut from a manufacturer, okay? So I know that I'm using something that has a precise cut mark. You got to make sure that whatever you're using for your L shape has a precision cut, and you're not using something that's been hand cut, okay? This may look good, but it's hand cut. It's not precision cut, and your picture will be thrown off if you do something like this. Okay, so this is the precision cut board. This is the precision cut board made by Machine. So I'm going to anchor this on right onto my chopping block, and to do that I'm going to use my glue gun. And I'm going to make a little mark here. I'm going to make a little mark here. And I'm going to make those marks on this side of the line so that I can see, just in case something happens and the board moves. After I put the guides on, I'll still be able to see it, because nothing's going to be here. Okay. So I made the marks there. Now I'm going to take my glue gun. Just use a glue gun. Don't use regular glue. And I'm just going to put a little bit there and a little bit here. It comes right off when you're done, and that's to hold this board in place. And I think I'm going to put one at the top here. And all that, the reason for that is to hold my board in place. I'll put one over here on the side of the chopping block so that it doesn't slide off and move on me. That's the whole purpose of this. I don't want this board to move. And I'm going to let that cool. And that board is anchored. You don't want to glue the board to that. You just want it to be held on there. Now, I'll need a chisel to scrape those off when I get done. But right now, that's what I want. It's going to be anchored to the board. And it's flush on this side, and it's flush on this side. So now, we can't really do much until that cools. What I can do is I can take this guide. This is the top guide. And what I can do is see, these marks are going to start coming in handy. See, because this guide's going to go here. You can see here, this is my center mark. Here, my eyeball has it right here, and it's off. That's going to go there. See? I don't know if you can see those marks, but that see why I put it on the side there? Because anytime it comes uneven, I'll be able to line it right back up with a perfect line right there. And I'll be able to do that with the top and the bottom at any time. That one's lined up, and that one's lined up. On the inside, you can't get any better than that. That's just as good, almost as good as a machine. Now, let's see if this board is... Okay, see, my board is anchored. Great. Okay, so now I have to be careful because, of course, I could just lift it right off of there. It'll only stick to the sides. Now, what I need to do is, I know where my center board is going to have to be. I'm going to have to glue my center board on. So I need to make sure this is flush right here with the bottom. It's got to be flush just like this. Okay. And I already know where to mark it. I'm going to take my top guide. This is the top guide. It says top right here, top right. There's an R there. There's an L here. And I've got those 3 marks going this way, so I know where to lay the guide. Make sure this is flush down here. This has to go over this way a little bit. I've got to be able to see that mark. And it should be flush on this side. And I should be able to see that mark. Okay, I can see it. Alright. Okay. Alright. Alright. The center one is centered. Now, I'm going to hot glue it to the sides. Great. That is great. That is now anchored. And I already know this piece is going to be centered right down the center because I centered this right here with the distance that I was telling you. I measured that distance of my board of what I wanted to see in here. Whatever this width is from here to here, I cut it down the middle, divided that figure in half, centered my board, whatever size board you use, whatever that number is, and I then took a I don't remember how I did that because I copied this guide from this one, but I don't remember how I got that guide width. Oh, the guide width is the same width from here to here and down the center. That's how I got that. Okay. I'm trying to not confuse you And I'm getting confused myself. Okay, this board is now anchored. See, I can't move it. I'm trying to move it. Can't move this one. This one's still movable. Okay, so we need to anchor this one. Let me clean my glasses off. Alright. Now, that's flush, that's flush. See, and I can see on this side too. You can't see on this side, the side over that's facing this way, but there's a mark here, and that mark lines up here too. You want all your marks to line up. Alright, now, we're going to make sure that this one's flush with the edge of the choppy block. I need to switch glasses. Alright. Now this one has to be flush with the guide. I have to make sure that the guide is flush on this side. I got to make sure this lines up. And this lines up. I'm going to put pressure right here. And now I'm going to line this up. Make sure this is flush here. Now, here's where there's a discrepancy. There's a discrepancy in the length of board that I cut. Now, why? Okay, because this has to go up this way some. This isn't flush. This is flush. This is flush. And now this board's over too much. You're going to need some weights for when you glue it. Okay, it's flush on that side. It's flush on this side. Except a little bit. Okay. Flush on this side. Flush on that side. Okay. Now, that's where that board needs to be, right there. We're going to glue this on all four sides. If you're wondering, I don't use this chopping block to chop food on at all. I have two chopping blocks in my house that are like this, and I don't use them to chop food. I bought one that I use. I just don't I don't know. I just can't see cutting them up. I don't know why. But anyway, I used to use it as a desk. And then I bought a desk, so okay. So now gotta wait for that to cool off a little bit. Now we'll be able to safely put the guides on. This is the bottom right, bottom left. I have my 3 marks here. All 3 boards are anchored now. They're anchored to the chopping block. Now we're going to want to make sure that this guide is flush on all three sides and on, or all three down here and on the sides. Okay. Alright, I got a problem. Yes, there's a problem. That's why I'm so glad that I did it this way. I thought there was a problem. This right here, this guide is overhanging right here on the edge. It shouldn't be overhanging because these two boards are the same length. No, they're not. You see that? Right there, it overhangs right there a little bit. So, and that's the bottom. That's the one with the problem. Okay. So, what we're going to do now is just to see, to make sure that that is the problem, that it does hang over. This one hangs over too. So there is a problem with that board too. Okay. I have to move this board over some. Okay. This is the top. Okay, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to go and I'm going to have to make sure that these two boards are the same length. They have to be the same length. So, hold on just a minute and I'm going to go grind that down. It'll just take a minute. Okay, see how quick that was? Look at this. Look at that. It is completely, they're both exactly the same size. And it only took a second to do on the grinder. That grinder's so neat. Let me do the other side real quick. Okay, now I know you're probably going, gosh, he has to be so perfect and stuff like that. Well, you know, I want my picture frame to be straight. I mean, there you go. I want my picture frame to be straight. Okay, this is the top. Okay, now these are completely flush on this side and this side, on my left and the right, and up at the top of the top. Now I know that these two boards are the same size. Now, let's go back to this. And there is a problem with this board. This board right here. It's sticking out too far, or it's not sticking out far enough at the bottom. So, I have my chisel here. And I'm going to take this glue off. See, that's all it does, take it off. So neat. Okay. So now, got to go back to this one. Make sure that's flush. On all sides. And now, we're going to take this one. Get flush on this side. Make sure you can see my mark. And I'm able to move that board over because this hot glue allows you to give. That's why I didn't move those two, so that way I can make this completely square now. How neat. And that's how I'm going to glue it too. There. It's flush on that side now. It's flush on this side. Now, and you have to allow for the hand cut. See, this side of the board and this side of the board is a hand cut that I cut with one of these saws right here. And no matter how straight you try to make it, it still comes out, you know, cockeyed. And that's because these blades are flexible, you know, and you just can't be perfect. It's not a machine cut. So, but this side is. These are machine cuts on these boards, done by a factory machine. So now I know where the problem is, and I can fix that. And now I can glue this board in the right place. Checking to make sure that it's all flush. My marks are on. And this board is flush here, and it's flush here now. I'm going to glue this board in the right place now. That would have threw off the whole picture frame. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to check my measurements to be absolutely sure. And to do that, I need my ruler. Now, because this is flush on this side, I need to check it on this side. Now, this should be the exact same size. This says 7.5, and this should say 7.5. The distance from here to here on both sides is 7.5. This is going to be a square picture frame. And this is flush down here. So I already know that the distance is right. So, okay. Now, okay. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to where's those other two pieces? Oh, my pieces are underneath there. Okay. Alright, now, this is where these center marks come in handy. Because these have rounded tips and stuff like that, it's hard to measure. And, like I said, you measure. I looked at my video and you couldn't really see what I was talking about. But I was saying you measure from the center out. Okay? I didn't say the word center. I was just going like this, so you couldn't really understand what I'm saying. But that's why you have these center marks here. Okay, this isn't glued yet. I'm trying to decide if I should glue this now or later. But anyway, you measure from the center out. Now this is where these comes in handy. Now, one thing you want to do when you're making your picture frame is you want to look at the grain of the wood. This one has a really nice grain on it. It doesn't have it on this side. So of course I want this to be facing out, and I want this one to be on top. Just like my old one that I made. These ones right here. This is a really old piece. This is a really old marker. You can see it's weathered. It's really it's been out there for years. Okay, and look at it. Doesn't it look neat? It just looks so nice. I use that as my top board for my picture frame, and it just gives it a really old look, and it came out really nice. And you can see right here on this one, this is where they had the pink marker for the marker for the construction site. And it's really neat because now there's a ballpark over there and there's a marina over there, and this was the only empty lot that was left. And I got the construction markers from there. I wonder what they're going to build there. Anyway, that's what you want to do. You want to make sure that your grains of wood are going to come out looking, like this. So make sure that you do that. Okay. So I have it pointed in the right way. I've got the nice grain of wood. I want this one on top. This one's the top. I don't want to mark this too much because this is where I'm going to be seeing it. Whatever pencil mark I put on here, I have to sand off. Okay. So that's going to go here. Now I need to decide. I don't remember how. I think what I want to do, because I want this to be totally square, I think I want to glue this first. and then come along and glue this on there after the guides are glued on. That's what I'm going to do. Yeah, because after this, after the guides are glued on, and I come along and I glue these on, I have to make sure that these don't tip like this when they're glued. And to do that, you have to have another piece of plywood. Now these are some more that I've cut because I'm making more frames. Now I put this clamp on them because this is what I noticed after I cut them. The plywood is bowing. That's why you need those weights. Okay? Because you want them to be flat when they're glued on. And you want to make sure that they stay flat while the carpenter's glue cures. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to need a piece of plywood to go in between here as a guide for these so they don't tip in while they're drying. So what I can do is I can use these. After I glue these, I'm going to put this right here. And I'm measuring from the center out. I'm not even worried about how much it's on that side or how much it's on this side. I'm worried about these marks in the center. I'm worried about this mark here. Where? Okay. I'm worried about this mark here, and this mark here. Okay? All three of those marks. And I'm worried about, same thing here. This mark here, and this mark here. Okay, this will be glued. So when I put this on, I want to make sure that while it's gluing, it doesn't turn on me like that. So I'm going to be using one of these extra guides just to lay there to make sure that this stays flat so that my painting slides in and out of there. Okay? So, in the meantime, when I take this out, you see where I'm going to glue this? All of these lines are going to line up. This line is going to line up with my center line. Okay? And it's going to be flush on this side, and it's going to be flush on this side. And then I'm going to put this underneath there, like that. And then I'm going to use these weights, like that. This one is not getting glued, so I got to make sure no glue gets on that. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. These weights are going to hold it down like that. Okay. So that is how I did it the last time. So that's what we're going to do. So what we're going to do right now is I've showed you what I'm going to do, and I'll finish up gluing it with the carpenter's glue, and then I'll have to let it sit, and then when I come back I will be able to finish the video. So we're going to put some glue right here, some glue right here, and some glue right here. Okay, and I'm just going to see, and it's great because I've got those pencil marks in there. I know exactly where I need my glue. I don't need to go over the pencil mark. Now I won't be able to do anything until I'm absolutely sure that this is set. Now, and you got to make sure, because like I said, this wood is bowed. Okay, that's just what happens. It gets bowed on you. So you got to make sure that you're going to put the weight where it's going to push that bow down. Okay, that's just what happens with plywood. So we're going to put this on here and make sure it's flush on this side. Straight here in the center. No matter what, make sure it's centered in the center, that the line marks up, because that makes everything centered. If this is off, the whole thing's going to be off. Okay. Okay, now what I'm going to do real quick before I put weights on it is I'm going to get a cotton swab and I'm going to wipe the glue out of there. Okay. And I will need to wet one of them because I want to make sure there's no glue in here for my picture to get stuck on, even after it dries, even after the glue dries. Okay, now I'm going to wet the other side and go through it one more time. Make sure I get all that residue off. I'm pressing down so any excess glue is going to come out. And now, making sure both sides are flush. They're flush at the top. And my bow mark is bowed in the middle, so I'm going to put one there first. There. Okay. Now, I don't need the glue gun anymore. Okay. Well, I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom. And then when I come back, we'll do the top parts. Well, I'm going to do the bottom, and then when I come back, we'll do the top parts. And that video only take a couple seconds, but I'll do it just so you can watch. And then we'll have to do another one to see the finishing product. But that's what you do, and thanks for watching my video, and see you in a little while.